Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome. It's good to talk. It's good to network. Thank you for joining us. My name is Alan Hore, one of the founders of the Construction IT Alliance, also formerly of TU Dublin in the School of Surveying and Construction Innovation. You're very welcome to what is the last event in our SME Digital Acceleration series. To date, we've looked at vision, we've looked at cultural change, we've looked at information management, sustainability, information standards, new technology, modern methods of construction, and now we're talking about facilities management. Typically, facility management is left till the end, but of course, the message should be that people should be thinking about FM from the very, very start of a project. I'd like to start by also thanking our sponsors, as I always relish this opportunity to thank these people. This morning, we're going to have both consumers of technology, i.e. industry, but also the creators of technology, the tech companies. And I think it's wonderful to see them on the same platform, because without the vendors, we wouldn't have the solutions that are on the market. So what we see on the screen here is both consumers and creators of technology. So thank you to all of you, and we hope that you'll join us in 24 for our skills focus. More about that later in the morning after our presentation. So we're delighted to have three eminent speakers with us this morning. Again, we've got industry and technology providers. So our first speaker is Jennifer. Jen, you're very welcome. Jennifer is an architect based in TOT Architects. She's a graduate of TU Dublin, and you have a particular interest in healthcare design. And Jen was one of the recipients of a Best Paper Award at the CitA BIM gathering, one of the highlights in 2023 for CitA, where you looked at the research into the ambulant cancer facilities and how BIM can transcend from design, construction into FM, and actually users of facilities, including patients, can engage. That's really, really interesting. You're also a lecturer in TU Dublin, a part-time lecturer, like I started myself. And so you're very welcome. Thank you for taking the time. We're also joined by Mel McGerr from MMA Architects, an architectural firm based in the Midlands. And Mel's been a great supporter for CitA over the years. I know, Mel, you also were on stage at the BIM gathering with Jen, and you have your own story. And I love the title of your talk, The Final Frontier. So the opportunity, I suppose, for design professionals to look at FM as a potential business opportunity, and perhaps delivering these, residential and healthcare projects that you deliver and other projects, that there is a kind of a downstream benefit in leveraging that technology. And last but not least, our good friend Brendan from Dalux. And Brendan has been a stalwart supporter of the Alliance. He's been at all our events throughout this year. Getting back to in-person has been a challenge, but we are committed to in-person. And we're going to continue to have in-person events into next year. So thank you, Brendan, for your support. I'm looking forward to hearing of one of the modules within Dalux that is particularly FM. So this is our program this morning. So I'm going to stop at that point, and I'm going to hand over to Jen to go to your presentation. So you're looking at leveraging BIM to drive FM. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and thanks Alan for the introduction. My name is Jen McAuley, and I am an interior architect in TOT Architects. And I've also recently graduated out of the Applied Building Information Modelling and Management course in TU Dublin, where I spent the last 3 years, and I did my honours degree in interior design and furniture also in TUD as well. So as Alan said, my paper or my presentation today is on adding value for end users and leveraging BIM to drive facilities management. So I suppose looking at the graph that CitA presented, we are adding value for end users, but in actual fact, everything that we see on the graph is actually relative to adding value for end users. We do need to be innovative. We do need to set the vision early in the project. We need to embrace the technology that's been given to us, and we also need good information practice. We need the information there to allow us to, one, get stakeholder input. Once we get that really early in the project, then it allows us to then start with a set of information requirements that when we're designing out any sort of spatial layout, we can then do it effectively based on the future goals and strategy that is presented. And again, on information requirements, in order for us to then create an optimal environment, I was speaking to Dan there earlier, and it was really important. His take on it was that the operation of every single project needs to be top tier in order for facilities management to operate the hospital, in this case, healthcare. And also on my side, I need to ensure that the environment is optimal for patients. And in doing so, that means that I need to reskill, I need to upskill, and that was the basis of me going back to do the BIM course, because I wanted to one, reskill in the future and also upskill in technology. And then sustainability, it is such a prevalent subject today. So sustainability goals defined, we need to take that from the stakeholder input and ensure that stakeholders are being encouraged to use those sustainability goals. And by doing so, we can do it through digital transformation to allow for a conductivity of greater productivity. And then through the digital model and using BIM technologies. So again, at the start, we need to just a rundown just with graphs. I think it's much easier with illustrations. How do we add value for end users? Well, it's not an exhaustive list, but we need to look at stakeholders, we need to look at their views, and we need to get their sustainability goals, turn that into information requirements, make sure all disciplines across the team is upskilled and reskilled, that we create the digital model, which is the project information model, and we do a clash coordination. So when we get onto site, there's minimal risks and errors. And in doing so, then we have the digital transformation from the project information model to the asset information model for operational use, allowing for an optimal model, value for the end user, supportive and a salutogenic environment, and then we can go into the post-occupancy evaluation and refine that. So again, who are the end users versus the facilities management? I think that was a take that I wanted to take here today, because stakeholder requirements, we get FM onto the table, when we get nurses and we get nurse managers, patients, all onto the table. It's not to exclude any one person, because they all have an equal voice. And then it's up to us as the lead appointed parties and appointed parties to carry out those requirements. They're looking at us with the skill set to do that. And then we then can say, we're then confident to proceed with an asset information model that encapsulates everything that facilities management requires. But we've also captured what the end user needs as well, because they are sitting there, they're using the building, and we need to ensure that they're using it to its effectiveness, the efficient workflows for the nurses, but also making it as easy as possible for facilities management as well. So I just looked at some of the attributes that an asset information model requires and its stakeholders of what they require. So we're looking at, for instance, occupant comfort, so enhanced satisfaction and well-being for end users. Again, that's going back to the salutogenic design. We are looking to create well-being and a focus on people's health, as opposed to the pathogenic and focusing on their disease. Sustainability goals, we want to increase the social environment sustainability, we want to stimulate innovation and creativity, and we want to look at the building performance analysis as well. And then operation and maintenance, we want to digitalise and automate FM operations, and we want to deliver efficient operational stances. And then space management, we want to higher employee and consumer satisfaction and cost efficiency. One of the things is, especially in terms of cost, if we lay it out spatially correct, then at least we can provide more beds. And we all know by providing more beds that it does lead to a higher income for the hospital. And that is also, in terms of the client side, very, very important. And then repair and innovation. So we plan and execute repair maintenance works in a timely manner. And that, in a whole, is a collated set of information within the asset information model. Again, it's not an exhaustive list. I'm sure there's much, much more. But facilities management, I'm sure, will have a lot more to say on it. And then if you were at the BIM Gathering event this year, which was a great event in September, you would have seen I did my paper on health promotion within a healthcare environment. This was in the oncology department that I carried it out. And this was an existing oncology department based in a Dublin hospital. And my focus within the paper was to try and use BIM as a standpoint to discuss what's required and what health promotion means to stakeholders. So in doing so, I used visual technology, and in this case Revit and Enscape, in order to make that conversation and create the conversation with stakeholders. So I interviewed nurse managers, nurses themselves, informatics managers within the hospital, and also I went on to childhood cancer stakeholder, and I also got input from them as well. Like this, what we see here looks very clean, and that is one of the requirements that hospitals need. But it's also lacking some sort of privacy, family interaction, and biophilic design and positive distraction, which is very much required in hospitals. So this was, I skipped past the second model that I did, but that was based on the literature, but I did go on to the third model, which is what we see here. And this promotes the salutogenic design. It's supportive to the patients. It delves into the environmental psychology and promotes health. And the way this is, unfortunately, I didn't get to interview anyone from a facility management point of view, but facilities management was taken into account within the design, not in terms of the airflow rates, not in terms of mechanical and engineering, but in terms of the cleanliness of the design itself. And in doing so, just to go back, using this allowed that conversation of the design and the health promotion with the stakeholders to really understand what it meant to start providing health and to the hospital. And we can see using salient architectural features, just simply like the artwork, using different colour woods and floors and stuff like that. It does bring an element of positive distraction to the stakeholder, or to the patient, should I say. So just to quickly run through different values that we could provide to within our group, is how do we leverage BIM to drive stakeholder engagement and add value to the end users. And these headings were a few headings that I saw on the internet, and I said it actually really reflects what we're trying to portray here. We're here to drive facilities management, we're here to drive BIM and the use of it. So one of them was ripple effect and building a community where we support one another to foster an environment conducive to the growth and collective well-being for end users. This is what we're all here for today, is we're building that community. That CitA, thankfully, have already built that community, and we're trying to drive the growth for the well-being of end users and facilities management. Mentorship and guidance, well, we're creating a reciprocal journey of learning and empowerment using digital technology, again, through BIM, through CitA trying to promote technology on Brendan's side and also on the consumer side as well, trying to provide that guidance to people following us as well. Collaboration, teamwork, the notion of achieving common goals through the manifestation of collaborative efforts and teamwork ensures the collective strength surpasses the capability and of isolated endeavours. So again, the idea that no one stakeholder should be or team member should be working individually. That allows for errors to come in and high risk values to come in. So collaborative not only fosters innovation but creates a sense of unity within diverse teams. And much like I'm not the know-how of facilities management or MEP or QS, but I am on the design side of things. So I can bring my expertise to the table, and in doing so then I can collaborate with all the other disciplines to then create a much stronger stance point for facilities management and for the end user. And in doing so, we can overcome challenges together. So we can face challenges collectively and enhance the chances of success. Helping each other reinforces the idea of collective strength to overcome the obstacles that we will foresee. It's inevitable on site and afterwards as well. And in doing so, to overcome those challenges, we can then look back and we have those success stories. So with industry innovators, initiating positive change enables individuals to overcome resistance to change through mutual support. We all know that there is such a maybe not so much now, but there was resistance to change for BIM, for digital technology, even for CAD back in the day. And with the many success stories that we have now, it is a powerful motivation for enhancing the philosophy of integration and bringing end users to the forefront of change. And then that follows on to positivity. So we're creating a positive environment, and it's a natural byproduct of positive change. So positivity comes as a catalyst for personal and communal growth and enhancing well-being for others. And hopefully by fostering the culture of optimism, individuals contribute to a healthier environment and a more vibrant social fabric, both for facilities management and for end users. So that is the end of my presentation, and there are my details just in case you have any questions on the presentation.
Thank you, Jen.
Yes, no problem.
You know, how does it have an influence on the mental health of end users or patients?
Well, it goes back to how we strategize the elements. So in terms of positive distraction, privacy, those were very much attributes that I found in the stakeholder interviews that was to impact the mental well-being of patients within their department. So an oncology department was picked solely because they are sitting there for 6 to 8 hours a day, or they might be there for sitting 2 or 3. We don't necessarily know, but of course the mental health side of things is being very much questioned when you're sitting there. You lose your identity, and it's that sense of giving the identity and giving the empowerment back to the patient through those attributes of positive distraction, privacy, biophilic design, and natural daylight that's coming in.
We're going to questions at the end. I'm going to ask one.
No, I was just interested in knowing. I discovered in the last year that there's a whole literature in the UK on soft landings for hospital projects, and I mean, some of it seems to cover what you're actually attempting to do.
To do, yeah.
I mean, is there a reason why we wouldn't try and adopt that or adapt it to our circumstances here?
We absolutely would, and I suppose it's getting that knowledge of government soft landings and the approach of a seamless transition from site to operational asset to both the stakeholders and to the design team. I think the awareness of government soft landings have to happen first in order for us to then practice it out for different projects.
The duration that the contractor and the design team have to be involved with the hospital seems to me to be, I mean, it can go on for 3 years, after substantial completion. So I mean, it's not something that it's free. So we want to know that it is actually going to deliver significant results. That's my own observation on it.
Yeah, and I think by adopting the likes of the BIM support and integrating facilities management at the start, it will assist and maybe reduce the time that the aftercare or that approach has to be taken. But I do foresee in the coming years that government soft landings will be a lot more approachable and taken into account for the.
If I ask another question, I'm shocked.
Thanks, Mel.
This will be other questions. There was some nice comments on LinkedIn as well for your award. I think nice to see an interior architect winning such an award. You know.
Yeah, no,
So
great.
it was nice. Yeah, well done again. So our second speaker is Mel McGerr from MMA Architects. Mel is a chartered architect, a chartered technologist, founding director of MMA. He's an MSc in design management, very interested in BIM, and in particular its application for small practices. Multi-award winner with both the ICE and the CIAT awards, which is nice to see. Lots of experience in residential, sports, healthcare, office awards, and won SME of the Year recently at the Athlone Business Awards. Well done.
Thanks.
Over to you.
Thanks very much, Alan. Here, I think. Jen, brilliant presentation as ever. It's always very hard to follow you, but we'll try. So I suppose I'm taking a little bit of a step back here in terms of looking, when Alan asked me to talk about facilities management and SMEs, I took a step back, started thinking about the real, the small family businesses, the small building contractor, the one-man show, and I don't really have the answers, but I have a lot of questions and a challenge, I think, to industry, to the universities, to the Daluxes of the world, as to how we can find maybe the simple system that these businesses need, because complexity is the small business's enemy, as far as I can see. So just a little bit about me, as Alan has kind of said it all really already, so I can pass on that. MMA, we're an architectural practice based in Athlone. We're currently restructuring and will be rebranding and relaunching in the new year as Adams and McGerr Architects. We are 3 architects, 4 technologists, but we're growing, and if there's anyone who's interested in a change or a new challenge, maybe get in touch. We work in all sectors. We have a very strong history in single residential dwellings, extensions, but we've also a track record in healthcare, pharma, offices, working on some large residential developments, even power stations, and we're now getting more and more involved in modular construction. And there's just a couple of images of some of the projects we have ongoing at the moment. And as Alan mentioned, this year has been an amazing year. We took home 3 awards during the year, which was fantastic. So my presentation today is going to pose questions. I hope to use this platform to inspire consideration and thought as to how we as an industry can gain more engagement and traction with SMEs in the area of facilities management. This is based as much on my own personal experiences within the industry and conversations with other professionals than specific or empirical evidence. However, I believe many will relate to it. So in large scale projects, and as we've seen with Jen, like the facilities management is well developed. We see it ourselves in some of the projects we're involved with. There's facility management experts. There's the various ISO standards, etc. We've building management systems. But when it comes to domestic houses, and in particular, I'm talking about small schemes of 5-6 houses, or the one-off house where you've a young couple building on the family land, or be it extending a home, etc. These are the people we're talking about. Like, I suppose when we think about FM, like the home like a machine, Corbusier famously said a house is a machine for living in. So we have smart home technology and things like that, and it's very accessible to those who wish to use it. It has huge potential, and many people benefit from being able to use the apps on their phones, set timers, turn on heating, etc. I see, huge benefits for the elderly in that maybe my own mum, she struggles with turning on lights and stuff like that, but she lives at home, and stuff like this can help her just to make life a little easier. We see MVHR systems, heating systems become far more intelligent. And Alexa obviously is a key to a lot of that. But the machine is far more than heating systems, lighting, etc. With BIM, we look to record data and we strive to hand over a model for asset information. However, domestic, in particular for one-off dwellings, extensions, small estates, this is very difficult. Hard-pressed self-builders are often unwilling to invest in what's perceived as at least an additional cost associated with something to see very little value in. Like I have clients spending $1 million on a house, and they'll fight with me over a few €100 for an extra inspection. It's crazy stuff. But look, that's life. The reality of domestic construction is that for a large number of projects, there's a major disconnect between what has been specified and what has been constructed. So what we find is we do very detailed sets of construction drawings, and ultimately when we go on site, what is actually there is often very dependent on what the builder's merchant had that particular week. And we're scrambling to try and, yes, we take our photographs, we have our apps for recording our inspections, etc. But ultimately, does that get handed over to the client in a concise way? We try, and I know talking to lots of other engineers, architects that we've doing small projects, it's difficult because we're just not getting paid for that time that's involved in that. Material and product specified at 10 stage are routinely changed by contractors and clients with little or no notification to the designer. We inspect and record changes, but it is difficult to quickly and efficiently translate this to the handover file at the end of the project. It requires a lot of work that no one wants to pay for, and chasing down that data is hard. And that extends to facilities, because it extends to the mechanical ventilation system. Like trying to get certification for ventilation systems, it's like pulling teeth. Like it's really, really hard. And that's across the board. Data collection during and at the project end is extremely difficult on all projects of scales. There's the BCMS. My opinion is, for this end of things, it's not fit for purpose. The opt-out was the death knell for any potential re-recording of that data. The technology is there, but do we really expect a small architectural business, engineering, main contractor to pay? I'll just give my own example. I was mentioned here at the start, or when I was talking to people, $5,000 for a year for 10,000 licenses in Autodesk Construction Cloud. Don't need that. And then there's further bolt-ons. It becomes just not viable at all. And as I say, we've lots of end users who are, they're spending over 500,000 to build a house at the moment or more, 300,000 to extend, whatever it is, at the current rates. They are hard pressed to be able to start adding on all these other costs, and they just want their home that they can move into. So how do we bridge this to get facilities management into that area? Why do we need to do it? Can we bridge this gap? These are the questions I'm posing. I do believe we need it. I think having it in place for small domestic scale projects is major advantages, I should say. There's obvious maintenance upgrading that can be done, aid air quality, heating control and energy use, greater control and quality of build. So I would see the facilities management end of it really being the recording of what is actually in the building, from the foundations to the roof to the systems, right through. Then at a macro level, this could all feed into the development of a national housing stock, which could monitor the condition of our homes to a certain extent, or how they're at. Not getting into Big Brother type of thing there, but just to have more accurate data as to where we're at. Support with meeting energy efficiency targets, carbon reduction goals, with potential for real-time data and more accurate information. Can we bridge this gap? Of course we can. There are apps and recording and inspections, etc. We all use them, but these are very much focused on the regulations. At the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure that building is compliant with regulations. But what if every construction product was required to have a QR code on its label that could be scanned by the designer and builder on site at point of installation? The level of data that could be instantly recorded and geolocated, tagged to the site, to the building, would be huge. This data is possibly already there. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it just doesn't seem to be available, or hasn't trickled down yet to the really small projects or to the one-man shows out there that are dealing with all this. FM for the SME is about recording what is going into the building at the time of its construction. Why? Because specs are constantly changed on site, often with no notice to the designer, as I mentioned already. And it's rare that everything specified in the drawing ends up in the building. And that goes across systems. We would have, worked with one particular ventilation company on designing a system for a home, and we arrive out in a couple months' time and get told that, actually, we went to this other guy because the plumber knew him and he's able to do it for half the price, etc., etc., etc. So, this is what happens, and it's trying to record all that information. It's not complex in a domestic environment, but it is time consuming, and the market is probably considered small for larger, I suppose, the larger tech companies that are providing this sort of software to be interested in. But I would note, the pyrite problem, the mic problem, the latest cost for that is they're saying it's going to cost 3.6 billion, and that is primarily houses that are falling apart. So having this data and this information properly recorded, I think is something really we should be thinking about. I would also say, in terms of the retrofitting and the grants that are being given, I know one engineer who has now set up a company because he firmly believes that there's going to be that many defects in badly retrofitted houses. He has a company registered and ready to go to rectify defects from retrofit. So that's something that he's very confident of. Again, I do believe if we proper recording and onus on the contractors, the architects, the engineers are inspecting it, and made it simple for them to record this data, that maybe we could prevent some of these issues. The focus in small construction projects is generally on the quality of the build. As soon as it's complete, everyone moves on to the next project. So, the pressure comes on to certify the building, and as soon as it's certified, the mortgage is drawn down, everyone moves on to the next project, and the end use and how the building's performing, and that really doesn't get monitored or considered. It does in exceptional situations, but it's just, I'm really talking about the general, what's happening out in the countryside throughout the country. There are systems, softwares and FM management, but it needs to be simplified for those that are going to use it. Certainly at this level, architects, engineers who are doing the inspections, the builder who's doing the work, it needs to be inexpensive. Can we see a trickle down of technology to ensure that the data can be captured? I just picked a guy there, like when you're a 2-man, 3-man, or person, I should say, operation, be it the small building contractor, the architect, the engineer, you have B-car, you have ventilation requirements, you have constantly changing design standards. You have different construction technologies and typologies. What you're trying to understand and cover, not to mention having to do the VAT returns at the end of the month. There is so much to do for a small company that we need to keep this sort of stuff as simple as possible to make sure we get engagement in it. Can the industry, government step up to the plate here? Will some of our technical universities undertake research in this space? How can we make it viable? Can we get builders, merchants and providers on board to help capture this data? Maybe it's already there and I've just missed too many CitA events and just don't know about it. That's I suppose takes me on to my next thing. So just returning to our friend Corbusier, purest rules would lead to the architect always to refine and simplify design, dispensing with ornamentation. I hold that for SME micro businesses in the industry, we need to find ways to simplify the FM process, that it becomes a basic exercise in recording information. There also needs to be a focus on softwares that are for small projects and are priced accordingly. The process needs to be simple and cost effective. So that was my rant for the last 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I suppose one of the reasons I chat to Alan, I haven't been to a few this year to many of the gather or the CitA BIM events, and to my own detriment, because you do miss out on so much information. And I just felt it was pertinent to say I was at the gathering, hugely enjoyable event. It was great to reconnect with a lot of people. We learned from everyone else, and I can't. It made me realize how important it is to be at these events or to attend them or see them, because sharing of information and sharing of knowledge is hugely important. So thanks, Alan and CitA team, for inviting me here today.
Thanks, Mel.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Just before we start, it's interesting. We build these, fantastic facilities, these homes, but why is it that our houses, our modern homes today, some of them are so stupid, really, as pieces of architecture? That we use all this tech, and then we have homes that are that we can't monitor efficiently, our energy usage and so on and so forth. I'm sure there are advancements, but it would be nice to see the homeowners getting the technology in their hands more. No? Yeah. Any other comments before we go to our final speaker? Okay. That's it. Mel, thanks very much, and thanks for those kind comments at the end there. Much appreciated. So our final speaker, Brendan. Brendan is with Dalux. That was my notes. Brendan is the Irish country manager for Dalux, and a Danish company that supplies BIM software. And I know they have a module specifically for FM. 1 million users worldwide, 125 countries. And you've been working in the world of construction tech for 12 or so years, former CEO of Zootech, and you've worked on some of the most amazing projects, the Shard, the Abu Dhabi Terminal 5, world first 7-star hospital, and the Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi. So, very interesting. Thanks very much, Brendan. Look forward to hearing you.
Thanks for that, Alan. It makes me sound like I know what I'm doing. A couple of points just on the previous presentations, Jed, the thoughts of the patient as the first point of call for design is really interesting. I worked in an architects in Cork in the late 90s, and there was a French architect, and we were building designing a data center. He says, the carpet must be red or brown because people need to feel connected to that they're still in a data. They don't want to be there, so they need to feel some kind of life in it. And it was just an interesting. I think that's really interesting to take that first, especially in BIM, and it's very admirable. And Mel, during 2019, I started a company as a small main contractor. We were doing high-end houses and fit-outs, and we did a lot of work for an insurance broker, a private insurance broker for some very wealthy clients. We were asked to go look at a job one day, and it was a 2,000 square foot basement of a very expensive house, and there was mold coming up the walls, and the floors were buckling, and it was quite obviously there was a leak. And I was the underfloor heating. So once we dug up a bit and investigated, there was 100 mil of underfloor insulation under the underfloor heating, and it was hundreds of litres. It was just, you could squeeze it like a sponge. There was hundreds, if not thousands of litres under it, and there was no pressure drop in the underfloor heating. The cost of the refit, pulling everything out, the expensive floor was about 300,000 euros. So Chubb Insurance had to take that on for 300,000 euros. And the cause of it was there was a toilet and a shower down there, and it wasn't really used except by the cleaners for cleaning out their slush buckets or mop buckets. And there was a pump, there was a run of about 30 meters, and then a pump to pump it up to a higher level. And there was a screw had come loose, rusted, broken out, and got stuck in the float switch. And that was it. One rusty screw cost Chubb Insurance 300,000 euros on that job. If the insurance companies were involved and said, well, if there was a flow meter or if there was a planned maintenance inspection, that wouldn't have happened. So there's another stakeholder in that to say, to make sure these things work. And it's just completely off script. Sorry, it was just to make a point on those. And I think that's the future of domestic FM. When I spoke to the insurance companies, that this needs to happen, and the insurance companies should really be funding a good part of it as well. Okay, so my presentation is BIM Powered FM. It looks a lot like Jen's, leveraging BIM for effective. I didn't know your thing. Anyway, a little bit, I work for a supplier, so I'm on a little bit of a different footing from the guys. I'm selling a little bit, trying to get our name out there, and so I'm going to tell you a bit about Dalux. Dalux is a Danish company. We have over 1 million users as of September, I think. We have 33 offices in 22 countries, mainly in Europe, but also Toronto, Chicago. We're opening one in Chile, but we haven't gone east of Europe as yet. We do design, construction, facility management. So boxes are CDE 19650 compliant. Tender for managing tenders. Field is for data out in the field, bringing data back, quality, things like that. Handover is for building up that handover information, your O&M, which is kind of slightly different to the way we do it here. Here, we know we've got 14 sections, you've got to do your sections there. It's based on the asset in Denmark. And then we have a full FM software. And I'll come back to a kind of anecdote about that at the end. We think we have the world's best BIM viewer, and we've done some studies on it ourselves, and we've concluded that we do. So that's, but the company is based on the BIM viewer. The whole thing was based around the BIM viewer. That's where it started. So that's the BIM viewer, and we built around it information management, on-site management, facilities management. Everything comes back to a location or an asset or a building, and that's the way we do it. Torben and Bent, two brothers who own it, Bent did a PhD and built this viewer, nothing to do with construction. It was all to do with how light bounces off facets and things like that. And that's where it came from. So in 2005, they started as a company, and that's the core of our product suite. But really what we do is we make complicated things easier. That's the whole idea of the company. Now, we're here about FM. In FM, and I won't go through all these, anything you can think that an FM supplier needs to do or software supplier needs to do, we do it from budget, asset management, help desk, space management. It's all there, it's all built in. But really what we're here to talk about today is how, so just the three main modules, is how BIM can enable that, how you can get a good output in FM by leveraging BIM during the process. There are three main, the BIM and documentation. So all that data for your system, the maintenance, getting the information to the hands of the guys to make sure they're doing the right thing at the right time, and then a help desk for the end users, an easy help desk so they can flag issues and have reactive maintenance. So again, we're all about locations. Some of our clients, there's one, we're not meant to really talk about them too much, but they make little bricks with things on top that you build toys out of. You might know them, they're Danish. We have every store of theirs in Dalux, hundreds of them. They're one of our biggest clients. So they start with a map and they drill down a map of the world and they drill down to each thing and all the assets come together. So you can imagine the amount of information they do. The Danish police and I think the Norwegian police use it for every police station. So that's where they start at a higher level. It's bigger than the BIM model. It's a map to drill down to it. So we have a map here, picked a building, and in that building, I have assets. Just take an example of some assets. So I click in, drill down to the building, and then I drill down to the assets. You have whatever information you need about them, where they are, whatever the case may be, and this kind of detail. So you can see, if you can see, the product, when the service agreements we might have for it, the recurring work orders, all of that information for that asset, which came from the BIM model, is all there. Where it is on the map, where it is there, you click up at the top, show in 3D. So there you go. Where it is in the building, that asset, it's a ventilation unit. So you can access it very easily. All that data you collected in BIM, straight to that FM point in 5 clicks. I've got to it, where it is, everything, from a map of the world. We also have a help desk. It's very easy. People don't need to be users. They can, once they just give their email address, they don't have to sign in or have passwords. Every time they log in, it'll show them the tickets they've raised. They just select, okay, well, it's a cleaning or it's an electrical, where it is, and either that's drop downs or it's a thing or it's an asset. They can drill into that. It creates at the top right here a list of help desk items for me, and they create work orders. But again, I can go into my list of help desk. So you have an FM company, they'll have buildings all over the place. They can see where everything is, what they are, and drill down into that information. Who put it up? What's the problem? It's all available to them. And this creates a work order sheet, which comes from help desks or from planned maintenance. So I can see as a estate manager or an FM company, all my assets, what I've got to do in each month or week or day. I can bring it down to it, and I'll get alerts on my phone to say this needs to be serviced, this is the issue. So it builds on, if you can imagine, all that information is coming from BIM models. So, and I'll get to how that happens in a minute, because that's the important bit, but it's just easy access to that information, no problem, and it's streamlined. And we combine data streams. So just to show, this is we take in a number of different models. That's 5 models. There's a point cloud up here. You'll have your structural, facade, MEP, all come together. All that data comes together and creates one FM package out of all those. But we could do that at an incredible level. So this is a model that's about, I think, 5 miles or 5 kilometers of an area. There's a map there, it's a road. So we do facilities or maintenance for roads, things like that. In that, there's 215 models in that. And you can access it on your phone, get into all that data very easily. You would download that to your phone in about 40 seconds. That's how much they can compress it. So I have that's a bridge or an underpass, some kind of junction. I have a station. You can see here, there's a building beside it. They have a point cloud built into that. And then a full building at this end. So that could be, and all the BIM data is in that. That's all combined together. So that incredible level of building that together, placing it on a map, you can manage that stuff. It's beyond belief, to be honest, some of it. The speed of the model viewer is amazing, and to download and things like that. Now, that's all great, that looks shiny, it's great, but how do we do it? And I did a presentation on a more detail of this at the gathering. It was online, I'm not sure if any of you saw it, but I've taken some slides for it. But we have a network of people, from designers, clients, architects, engineers, end users, and we've got to combine them all. We have loads of systems used: ArchiCAD, Tekla, Revit, Excel, PDF, all sorts of different systems are used. So we've got to be flexible to get them in. And then importantly, the hierarchy of requirements. So we need to know what's required. Now we've seen this stuff before. The hierarchy, if you have someone's looking for this information, but it's not quite clear to the contractor, you're not going to get really good information out of it. But if it's clear, if they know what they need, then you're going to get a good output from that. And how do we achieve this part? How do we make sure that everyone involved is giving the correct information? So OIRs, PIRs, EIRs, that's the theory. That has to be done. You need it. It's complicated, but it has to be there. And that's what this looks like. It's tables, it's Excel sheets, but really importantly, it's who has to supply this, when do they have to supply it, and what exactly are they supplying, the information, that is. So it comes out in Excel sheets, Kobe sheets, different formats, BCFs, it could PDF, Outlook, Excel, it all comes together, which makes it quite complicated. How do we simplify that? So we just bring it down to who, when, what. And we go in and we have a system, the handover system, to build up this FM. I have, and it's probably hard to see with the lights on, but the list from the BIM models, the list of assets, and we put against this are required: the product information, the maintenance information, the warranty information, the supplier, whatever it is, and it's based on the subcontractor. Each one, they get a slightly different view of it, so I know how many have been filled in, where they are. This is the contractor. They're just looking at exactly, okay, there's fans, there's outlets, there's for the electrical, there's whatever information they've got to do. They can see, they log into their dashboard and say, okay, I've got to fill in this information. So again, that's all products on the company, on the project, and the products linked to multiple assets. So this is all the assets. So you could have 20 products, but 60 assets. It doesn't need to tally up, and that's important as well. And you can import that we can import that information directly from Excel or Kobe or from a BIM model. But the important thing is these guys get their own view of it. They know the information you have to pass, and the person collecting responsible knows the information that is required, what's been done, what hasn't been done. So we make it visual for them. So this is you can probably see the little dots there. That's one single one. They're the outlets, the pop-up outlets. And then there's the product information about it. So you fill in the card and say, you filtered the BIM model to show me all of the ones by family. And then you just click it, say, that's the product for that, and it's done. They're all done quickly, visually, very easily. Now, I've done a lot of PowerPoints in the last 12 years, and if people say, any tips or anything, I would say, don't do videos. So let's just see if this works. Yes. Sorry, it's just a quick video, it's about 20 seconds. So you can select a door, filter it down to the family. So you click on any value but the family there, and that gives me the exact same doors in it. So I'm using those filters to create, a bulk amount of assets. Click on the asset, create multiple assets, and I fill in the details. Whatever it is about the door, and that's done. So for every door that's the same, or every skirting board, or every switch, or every pump or fan, you very easily create it. You can do it in 2D. You know, as long as you tag that, you can do it in 2D as well. It doesn't need to be 3D. And so it's very simple, very easy to get that information in. So the important thing about this is you just need to show people what they need to do, and then tell them when they need that information, and just give it a way they can understand and an easy way for them to do it. It's all about giving them easy tools to do it. Now, off script, I was thinking about it earlier on the way in. We've engaged recently with one of the Dublin hospitals to provide a help desk and move on, and over time build up a full FM platform within Dalux. And one of the first questions we asked was, well, you know, can you give us a list of rooms? No. They don't have a list of rooms for their hospital that was built 30 years ago. They don't, you know, they've no names, they've no, you know, that's the basic part of it. So that's a long way behind, and that's one of the more modern hospitals. Now, what they figured out is they do have a list of doors, so we can work it out from there. They don't have a list of assets, they don't have drawings for every area. They've got different companies that have done different bits, but they're not sharing their BIM models. And it's a real issue in Ireland, and the CitA is trying to get over this. I speak to prospective clients all the time. So, you know, just give the designers access to this, or give the end users access to this. Oh no, they won't do that. They just want a PDF. They don't want to use this. They don't want any systems. They don't. And I'm like, to the end users, get the model from the builder. Oh, they won't share it. They won't share it. There's a real lack of collaboration. And you don't see it, you know, I work in Scandinavia a bit. You see it there, they're all open to it. We'll work together, we'll make it work. But here and the UK, to be fair, there's a mindset difference. Now, the other thing about the hospital is we were going to do a help desk. And what it does is, if I'm an electrician, work for the hospital, I'll get a notification. These are my work orders for the day on my phone. Very simple. It tells me where to go, shows me on the map, can guide me there with GPS, shows me everything about it. Don't use it. Has to be paper. We have to print it. The union said we have to print it. And I was, okay, grand. And the guy, I know him, he's the stage manager, he goes, I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do about this. I'm embarrassed, you know. So I got back on to the guys in Denmark. And in Denmark, there's 56 major hospitals in Denmark. 55 of them use the full suite of the FM, and the other one uses the 3D viewer. So they all use it. And he goes, oh, no, we have that built in, because when we started that in Denmark a few years ago, they wouldn't. We had to print it as well. It was the same issue. And I was like, okay, well, that makes me feel a bit better. We're just a bit behind. The BIM mandate came in Denmark in 2007. So we're 17 years behind. That's the reality. Now, I think it won't take us 17 years to catch up, because technology's moved on. We've been doing things like this. People use BIM anyway. But I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's it's there. You can see the collaboration in Scandinavia, the way they use this, they trust it, they trust each other. And that's what a lot of this is about. Saying, well, there's the information. We're not hiding anything. That's really important. So kind of a bit off script, but I think, yeah, I was there 17 years behind. It's a long way to catch up. But at the same time, those hospitals would have only started using Dalux in about 2016, 2017, and now they're fully automated. So really, and if we're starting in that one hospital now, we're maybe 7 years behind. So it's not too bad. I think we can get there. And that's just kind of anecdotally. There's a picture here of Dalux is a great company. They've 2005 they had a turnover of about €1 million. I think they'll do about 60 million this year. They won the EY Entrepreneur of the Year this year in Denmark. There's 400 people in that, or about 350 people in that photo. They brought us all to Athens in September for 4 days. Almost half of them are software developers. So working in this industry for a while, companies will have maybe 20 software developers. 50% of the people are software developers. That's their aim. In Denmark, in Copenhagen, all developed there. There's no outsourcing or anything like that. So, and you've got a Scandinavian design principle of simplicity. It's all about, well, make it simple, make it user-friendly. That's the whole point. Anyone in this room whose design background, which I presume is most people, we all look up to the Scandinavians for their simplicity, and it's the same with this. But I think that simplicity drives usage big time. We've had Sarah Ryan from Walls gave a presentation on our behalf, and they use it for the viewer. So the engagement they've got from site with the 3D models is incredible. Once they gave them the 3D model they could use, and they could view, and they could see easily. So technology has a large part, and I'm not really talking about Dalux now, has a large part to play in Ireland advancing in BIM and digital technologies. If it's not easy, people aren't going to use it. But I think what's really lacking is a bit of trust between the different stakeholders, and I don't know how we change that. Anyway, I'll get down off the soapbox. That's me. So yeah, contact me at any stage, and I hope you found that somewhat interesting. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Keep the projections up in the front. If you would like to for Q&A, I'd like it favour to pull up the question slide. It's interesting, Brendan. I was doing a bit of work earlier in the year for BIM Digital, and we looked at I think it was UK, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Australasia. You know, by way of say BIM adoption, and I think Denmark was the only country in the world, or the only country certainly in Europe, that had a actual regulation for BIM. It was codified in the law, and if clients or organised, if project teams or clients in construction were not using BIM, they actually had to be, there was a sanction. You actually had to use it. There was requirements. It wasn't as if it was recommended by, you know, a government agency. It was actually a law that had to be used. So you can see how a company like Dalux would flourish in that type of environment, where it's embedded since 2007, which is astonishing. So, questions for our wonderful speakers this morning? Okay. I have a few, but I'm going to leave. Okay, I'll keep this. Okay, no problem. Any ladies at the back? There's a question there.
Hi. Just for the Dalux BIM viewer, you mentioned that point clouds can be viewed. So, is that possible on the phone?
Yep.
Yeah. So where are they pulled from? Then where is the point cloud stored? Is it decimated so that the size of the point cloud or the quality is, decreased, or how does it work on the viewer?
So it's you upload to our servers, which it's kind of standard stuff, and then you download it to your phone. But the compression, and this is the whole thing about Dalux, that's what it's built on. The compression is down to about 5%. So it's very even on the point cloud. It's very easy to do, very quick. I downloaded. There's a big transport hub going with Belfast, and I downloaded it. Don't think there was point clouds in it, but within 60 seconds, I could move around the model and look at all the data. So it is. Yeah, you have to really try to see it, but yeah, it works very well. And just to say, that's free. You can just download that and use that. There's no cost to it.
Interesting.
Good.
John.
Just a couple of observations, Brendan. I noticed you zeroed in on the locks on the door in the example you gave. And it brought to mind a very early CitA meeting, probably 15 years ago, where somebody from BAM, who were looking after the facility management and schools they had built in the Midlands, they were decrying the amount of data in COVID. That nobody had prioritised what was needed. And, he mentioned particularly the blocks were a recurring problem. The rest of the information about images and all the rest was of no interest to them. They just wrote the thing down. However, that's just an observation. I was at an ASHRAE talk recently, and they were talking about buildings and models, and they seem to be implying that, given the fact that energy and running costs are such a big portion of the life cycle cost of the plants, that there's now a whole process being developed of tune-ups for buildings. Have you come across that?
I haven't, but I suppose the ERG software in McGerr, our company, they're probably looking at that, but it makes sense, all right, because even at home, I need to get my boiler serviced at the moment, and I know that the tune up my boiler is going to reduce my energy costs. It's the same thing. But if you're not managing those, if you're not told when that needs to be done, if you're not bringing that live data, reviewing it, and seeing the changes,
I
you
agree
don't know.
with you. I mean, the whole point, the graph that they used was a demonstration of cost with growing, the building growing with age. And they put a tune up in, and so they immediately dropped down off the position, and and it restarted a new kind of, as it were, cost model. But it was completely without data.
Yeah.
I mean, it could well be that you achieve nothing from the tune.
Well, I suppose with the data, you'd know where to tune up the most. You'd see your drop off, and you could see, like, that tune up, maybe it cost twice as much as it needed because you didn't have to actually service some of the information. Like, keeping your filters clean in your ventilation system is going to make a big difference.
Yes.
But to be told that the data to say when they were last cleaned is 50-60% of the solution to it. Okay, someone's going to go do it.
But you're saying this is only a nascent kind of side of the industry at this point in time.
I don't know. I think a lot of, particularly with the pharmaceutical, the data centers, they'd be on top of that in a big way. I know that there's a new head office for a big company at City West, and they're going to test everything they can and get this as the most data-rich building in the country, as an example. So that should be coming in. That'd be an interesting story to hear, probably in 2025. I would say blinded, but that'd be interesting because they're trying to do that, get every bit of data they can get, bring it back to dashboards. But it's not easy. There's no plug and play. You need to use Power BI, APIs for different things, pull information together, have a data architect to disseminate it. I mean, it's not easy, but it is worthwhile.
Every house should have a dashboard, Thank you. How efficient is your home currently? What energy are you using? What gas are you using? So, question from Sean.
Thanks, Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Sean Dennison, GS1.
Okay, going to sing a song or
I'm due to
something.
speak here today, but somebody bumped me off.
That's fine.
But I think the three presentations were better than I could have done anyway, so thank you for that. I think our I suppose, hobby horse is data. GS1 being synonymous with data across many sectors, including a lot of retail, hospitals, pharmacy, and so on. So to go to Mel's question, if there was a QR code you could scan, well, the good news there is the GS1 QR code you can scan, but the problem is the data behind it, and whether manufacturers are providing the data or being asked to provide it, or providing it in a consistent fashion. So Jennifer is probably looking through PDFs most of the time, trying to figure out what's the spec or what's the characteristics or properties of products. So that's improving substantially now because of the ISO standards 23386 and 23387. So there's a data dictionary. There are data models. There's product data sheets. So using the same terminology, companies like CoBuilder are producing databases where the same thing is called the same thing across nationalities, regions, and different languages. And that's all down to looking at the ISO standards, the BS standards, the IS standards, and so on, and digitalizing those so that you're using the same terminology. So there's a lot of work happening there, but interoperability is the big thing, I think. I do it from a BIM model. It's not an interoperable identifier, so you can't use that to order a window. So there needs to be a unique, locally unique identifier.
Yeah.
It's interoperable to do that.
Do you have a question? Do you have a question?
Question, yeah.
It's typical.
Questions for Brendan. I saw that the application at the Building Smart Conference in Norway last year.
Oh wow.
And it's extremely impressive. I'm wondering though, are you putting the data back into the BIM model when you make a change? Say you change the filters on an air handling unit or whatever, that if you're then putting that back into the BIM model or going into an FM application.
So we were in Denmark at what's called a Dalux Summit 3 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they released a roadmap on what's coming up, and that's being released in the next few months, where you actually enter data into it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can push it back to your BIM model, so it can be viewed in Revit. It'll be kept separate though. I can't fully remember the full reasoning of it, but it'll be there, but it'll be shown as additional information, and then there, rather than overtaking the additional information that was there. So I can't remember exactly the reason why, but yes, we will be within one or two releases.
Thanks, Sean. It's something we'll definitely be looking at next year. I have one question for Jen, actually. Jen, you're an interior architect.
Yep.
Would that mean that you generally come on board once the structure is complete and the building is, so you're fitting out?
Yeah, it depends, I suppose. For a lot of the projects that I've done TOT, it is retrofit, it is refitting within existing buildings.
All right, so you raise floors, access floors,
Yeah, exactly.
suspended ceilings,
Yeah.
partitions, no?
If in the case then that it's we're taking on an early stage, for instance, we've just got planning for the Beacon Hospital extension
Right.
from on board Nala, and that is one project that I'll have early engagement with.
But are you involved in the build as well, or just the fit out?
Just to fit out.
Okay, so my question leading into then, you're obviously interfacing a lot with manufacturers,
Yes.
suppliers.
Yeah.
So are you finding that they have the digital set, that they can, in a Revit format, that you can actually pull in
No.
the information? So they don't have that?
They're not all manufacturers. It's being fair to say that I have nothing, but not all manufacturers would have that database there.
Is that something that would be really useful?
Essential it is.
Yeah,
Because then I'm either then creating a separate PDF document or an Excel document to then input that information in myself, where that takes up time and also increases the risk, because I might get product codes wrong or whatever the case may be, specification might be slightly wrong just by human error. But if I had that data to go straight into the Revit model, that would eliminate all of that.
Interesting, yeah. Very good. Any other questions? Yes? Niall, isn't it? Jim Sheridan, yeah. Housing Agency, yep.
That was a great talk, everybody. I suppose, the housing agency, so I'm coming at from a housing point of view. I suppose questions really directed at Brendan and coming along from what Mel touched on, really from the facilities management, and that goes back then to housing projects, apartment projects. Have the Danish delivered kind of housing projects from a facilities management point of view? How does it filter down and distill down?
Yeah, we have, and we've done in the UK, where we work with a number of the housing associations in the UK. And one of the things we do, we collect all that data, the handover data, and then I don't want to sound like I'm selling too much, and I apologize for this. There's another element in Dalux which is called apartments, but it's where you give the owner access to a certain area and they just get their products, but they can also log any snags within the first 6 months and manage that as well. So that's kind of well used in Scandinavia, where you build up that handover data for the end users, and then the end users get a kind of a limited access, very different looking access to that data, and then they can also say, they can do their snag list, or they've got their first 6 or 12 months, whatever it is, they can issues, and they can, if it's a district heating scheme or something like that, they can do requests through it. So there is that there, all right, and starting to move. I say the UK are starting to take it on. It's still a lot of the build stuff, so the quality management, but that's starting to seep in all right. But yes, in Scandinavia, they use that information from the initial design, and they follow it right through to that end user. Yeah.
When the Revit model is put on there, or whatever model is brought into Dalux software, does it have to, do the assets have to be retagged? Or
No.
does it take the information?
It takes all the information in, so whatever information you get in, and you can use IFC, or you can pull in from ArchiCAD, Tekla, Revit, whatever it is, there's plugins for, so it pulls all that information across. Obviously, you've got to set the push from Revit up right, but yes, it takes all that.
Very good. Yeah, I have a question for Mel. Mel, you represent a kind of smaller size practice. Obviously, you're looking to grow. You're looking for people. It's a common challenge out there, looking for people. You talked a lot about simplicity, and the complexity is the enemy to the SME. You just maybe elaborate a bit more on that, particularly the cost of purchasing software currently out there.
Yeah, I think like we've a real mix of projects. It's very broad church, and we like it that way because it keeps us fresh.
What products do you have? Just give me maybe 2 or 3 examples.
So the products we would have, our base product or software is Revit.
Right.
Like most SMEs, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
or anyone that's in that space. We use Lumion as a
Visualization, yeah.
We're using Navisworks in some of our projects, and then we would use Autodesk Construction Language or CE. Again, I suppose I love what Dalux do. I've been following them for a while, but I suppose we're coming from the being in the Autodesk family, if you like. But there are other products we probably would like to use, but cost is an issue. Now, it's fine on some of our larger projects because there's a budget there for that, and they see the value. You know, you have companies that they treat their building as an asset because it has to function as, they can't have downtime, because if they have downtime, they're losing revenue.
Okay.
And that's a big driver, whereas for a home or a house, there isn't really downtime until there is an issue. You give a brilliant example of a defect due to a fault, and these happen all the time. Another anecdote I thought was brilliant. I was dealing with an underfloor contractor, and he told me a great story where he went to this woman. She could not keep her heating bills down, could not keep them down, and this new house, and he went out. She asked him to come out and look at it, and himself and a couple of guys were looking, and they could not get to the bottom of it. And it was a frosty morning, and he looked outside, and he said, "How come your patio is dry, or no frost, or a bit wet?" "Oh yeah, we ran the underfloor out to the patio."
Oh yeah.
And he said, "There's your problem, man." You know, so they were heating the universe, you know. so I suppose that's a slightly different, but the issues, yeah, there's, I suppose, we don't have a huge suite of software. Then we've lots of others we don't really use. I've started using Autodesk Forma.
New Forma?
Yeah, Forma. That's very powerful for conceptual design. And the inbuilt AI into it gives great data back. But I know a lot of offices, or I know a lot of other engineers and architects that are the one-man shows. I know from talking to them, some of them are they're just at an age where they're just going to stick with AutoCAD. They don't, there's no need to go into else, and that's fine. But then there's others, and the areas in Revit, but it is very much as just a 3D tool. It's not, and we're years talking about that, but the issue I see is coming back to products. What's going into the product? What's going into the building? Not being recorded correctly.
Yeah, but you talked about BCAR being broken. I agree, but and maybe this is a question for the audience as well. When you purchase software, can you give the client? Can you put that technology in your client's hand? In other words, if you purchase Dalux, for example, can you then set up an account? Can you give your client access to that at no cost to the client? So, you know what I mean? Can that be done?
Dalux, yeah.
Yeah. So, for an enterprise package, for example, I don't know if this is Autodesk Production Cloud. In other words, the client doesn't need to buy the software to a view. So you set up an account for the client, and they can then use the functionality to visualize and so on. So I mean, have other people got experience of that in the audience?
There's free model viewers, like.
There's what?
There's free model viewers, like with most softwares. So if you're doing a 3D model, you want to give it to the client. There's model viewers.
And is that a perpetual access then, or do they have to pay a license for that?
So there's a few different model viewers you can get.
Okay.
Add a model viewer with display, so there's a number of different model viewers.
Very good.
No license.
Okay, interesting. But there is this thing out there that BIM is Revit and Revit is BIM. Well, of course, there's much more, isn't it? Yeah. Any more questions for our audience?
Yeah, sorry.
Just introduce it. Yeah, sorry.
Declan Riley from Accenture. So,
Oh, very good. You're very welcome, Declan.
Thank you. Capital Projects and Infrastructure Practice. So from my perspective, I'm listening to what we're talking about today. There's firstly great presentations, but equally we've talked a lot about data and then the transition from construction into facility management. But do we actually have the contracts or commercial agreements in place that incentivise contractors to actually have an interest in the management and running of any of the buildings or assets that come out the other side of it? Or is there a need to go back and review how we are structuring the contracts that we sign up to?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that one. I mean, the solutions are already there. I mean, the solutions are already there. There's soft landings, as mentioned earlier. That's been very successful in the UK. And that, for everyone to know, that means that the contractors and the designers know from the get-go that they will be engaged for 24 months or 36 months post practical completion. That changes the attitude. There's government, soft landing from the UK, and there's private soft landings. Second area is, mentioned earlier, who pays for this? The gradual introduction of FSC1, which is used in the UK, where it means that
David
the
Mosey.
design team are engaged for periods of time, not for specific projects, actually eliminates the cost associated with soft landings, which we mark together. And finally, NEC4 is a better collaborative contract than a traditional contract. That means then that there's collaboration, not just between the design team and the contractors and the PQS, but also, as mentioned earlier, by the FM team. Because at the end of the day, when you combine all of what I just said, there's an interest not just of getting out the door and getting the building built, and getting practical completion, and getting your half your IT of your retention. It's about the end product, the end customer, the end user. And in the case of hospitals, you have the patients, the guardians, and the staff. So to answer your question, it's all there, but it needs, like what happened in Denmark, it needs the government to actually step up and make the hard decisions and say, this is the way it is, and not reinvent the wheel, which we traditionally do. Okay, thank you.
But if you're an owner or a building owner or a house owner and you purchase something like you purchase a car today, a new car, you want assurance that it's been built correctly, works correctly, it operates efficiently. And I don't think that's there yet because we go from design to construction to operational models and there's a disconnect.
Absolutely.
And if we can't get assurance that the building has been built to the standards that are required in Ireland, then you know you're not buying a fit for purpose project per building. Yeah.
But I mean, that's 100% correct. It's all about knowledge. As Sean said earlier, if we digitize the Irish standards, the British standards are already digitized. If we digitize the ASTM standards, then once you have digitization, you can compare what's in the EPDs and the product declarations with what the specification is for that country. But final thing I have to say is this does not depend on designers or contractors or clients. It also depends on manufacturers stepping up to the mark and providing digital product passports as part of their delivery.
Yeah.
That's the key point.
Yeah.
Can I just-
Yes, Ben.
Yeah, the digital product passport, we do, sorry.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work at the moment now as design certifiers on projects.
Yeah.
And we are spending so much time reviewing PDFs of products because the contractor or someone wants to use an alternative to what was originally specified and approved, technical specs, etc. And there's a lot of time, a lot of hours lost trying to make sure that a product that's being proposed is suitable for use. And if we can get that process to easily compare digitized, that would make a huge impact on the industry. Really, really would.
That might be a good way to start closing things up. Thanks, Mel. And thank you for taking the time and joining us this morning. And Brendan, Jen, Mel, fantastic job. So just showing our appreciation for our speakers this morning. So it only brings me to close this series, the SME Digital Acceleration Series for 23, starting back in February. We were somewhat anxious about the year because we didn't quite know what the reception would be, but we got a fantastic reception. Some larger numbers some days or some events than others, but overall we had a fantastic experience. So many organizations have spoken. That's not to be, we may have missed a few gaps there, but almost all of these people have presented one way or another at the series this year. And we're so thankful for them and for the sponsors that supported the series. I suppose the main message is that the small and medium-sized companies really need to step up and invest in technology. And that needs, at the start, it needs a vision, it needs a plan. There is a cultural change that needs to happen. They need to embrace standards, they need to be looking at new technologies, and they need to be looking at that sort of end user experience as well. So it's been a great series for us. Also in 23, we got out to the regions again. We're going to do a lot more of that in 2024. This is something that the board in CitA want us to do. So we'll be back to the west, the south of Ireland and the north of Ireland next year with more regional series. The gathering was a huge success. This really was a shot in the arm. The reception we got in Athlone was fantastic. We even had the mayor of Moat and Athlone there herself was an architect. Over 50 speakers, 150 plus delegates. The reception was fantastic. So we want more of that. And so the commitment to going to the regions for us is very much to the fore. So thank you all the CitA team for doing such an amazing job in Athlone as well. And to our sponsors, not to go through all of them, but we had SME Acceleration Series sponsors, Regional Event Series, and of course the BIM Gathering. Without your support, we simply wouldn't be able to do what we do. The big success story, I have to say, for 2023 has been the skills component of what CitA does. We have one of the longest established CitA skill net networks in the country. I think there's 3 major skill nets in construction: CP SkillNet, Construction 4.0, and ourselves. But these people and the work of Dari and her team that they've done has been phenomenal. 122 companies engaging in the training, 6,000 training days. On the date this slide was produced, there's probably many more at this stage. 480 employees trained. And the board, looking at these figures, said, well, this is the biggest and largest component of what you guys do. So why not focus 24 on skills? So this is the reason why next year the commitment is to digital skills. And indeed, we also got the opportunity in recent months to apply for funding for 24. And more about that, we should know more about that next month. So the new series, this is in the oven, still baking, but the new series is starting to now emerge. And the way that we kind of develop these series is with our industry members, both public, private sector input. And we are also, it's a significant year for CitA because it is 25 years ago that this journey started. 19th of November 1999, Bolton Street, room 281, we had our first event. Supported that time by Build Online, who became a hugely successful tech startup. And it was through that CitA spun out and became a legal entity in 2005, I think it was. So we're going to be looking at how we can celebrate those 25 years. So this event is very much grounded. It's very much practical. It's case study driven. And it's about what are the essential skills that we all need in various stages along this circle here. So we're going to start with, I suppose, the key focus of BIM, because obviously there's a mandate coming in Ireland. So what are the essential skills, not just for designers, constructors, manufacturers, quantity surveyors, the insurers, funders, auctioneers, the whole gamut. What are the essential BIM and creation and collaboration skills needed? And of course, for BIM to work, you need collaboration. You need everyone to be using the technology. Moving on then to what is probably, is where a lot of the technologies at the moment, project, construction, management. These construction companies are really leveraging these technologies. So what tools are there? And more importantly, what supports are there for the SMEs to invest in those tools. Off-site construction, design for manufacture, becoming more industrialized, we're going to be looking at those skills. Low carbon, retrofitting, key focus of the Irish government on the Climate Action Plan. So again, quality surveyors, we need to be able to do life cycle costing. We need to know what the life costs of buildings are, not just the physical build costs. And we need to also measure carbon, something you can't see. You physically can't see this, but how do you measure carbon and how do you get your credits for that? Moving on then to, I'm learning so much about project tracking that contractors are using at the moment. You know, the Procore technologies, the 4D technologies. So project tracking, immersive technology, AR, VR, again, the skills that we all need to know. Moving on to, I suppose, which is kind of a big challenge at the moment, a lot of talk about AI, and, you know, is it good, is it bad? AI and how it's going to drive and change manual processes and automate more what we do. Moving on then to live data capture, whether that's camera technology, whether that's point cloud, but live information, live dashboards, data analytics, and then onto FM again. But again, you know, we did so sensor technology. So this is what's kind of, we're almost nearly there, Suzanne, aren't we, with this series? We're meeting again, I think, next Tuesday with another cohort of our members to try and fine-tune this a little bit more. So we'll be announcing this in the coming weeks. The dissemination of this series, we're hoping it'll be sort of hybrid, so a mix of kind of in-person and online. And we'll be also having a focus, sort of a CitA Tech live event later in the year, again focusing around skills. Skills is the focus next year. So thank you so much for attending. Thank you to all our speakers. We're looking forward to 24. Is it okay to wish you all a Merry Christmas? We're not quite there yet, but I think it's tomorrow we can, or is it Friday we can say Merry Christmas, but have a wonderful time over the holidays. And please come back, tell your colleagues at work, tell your client relatives to get in behind the alliance, because it really is important that we drive things forward in 24. Thank you.